So this time from the Marvel Legends 2012 Wave 2, we're going to be taking a look at one of the switch-out figures, running change figures, they're calling them, and it's going to be the Wrecking Crew member of Piledriver. Now the other member is Thunderball, which I do not have right now, but hopefully will be coming soon. But for now, we'll just take a look at the back of the package here. Of course, we don't have much info on either of the two members. Just a little general write-up. Not even like 3 lines on what the Wrecking Crew is. And that's unfortunate. They could have done both of them, told what each little blurb for each. I mean, they definitely have the empty space here to do it without interfering with the main art. That's my one big thing about these backings, is that they really give little to no information about the characters. And I find it funny that all the figures include a much detailed little pamphlet about the Build-A-Figure. Getting into Piledriver here. He's a very big figure. And, he is supposed to be a very powerful powerhouse. Strong enough to take on an Asgardian like Thor and stuff. But I get the feeling that they really went a little bit too big for the character. I may be in the minority in that, but that's just the way I feel. He's a little bit too big, and just to bring in a little reference here, 2 heads taller, or 3 heads taller than the Bucky figure. Now I feel he should be taller than the Bucky and bigger, but not as big. I do like the sculpt on the face here. He's got a nice smirk, but he's kind of a derpy look also. The character is not the brightest of characters, and you do get some of that with that sculpt, but you also get his sort of smugness and I don't know, really nice face sculpt for the character. One thing I do think they cut along the corners with, because the molds for both Thunderball and Piledriver are the same, with, of course, the different colorations and the head sculpts here. So they kept the parts the same on the arms, and to my knowledge, I don't really think that he should have gloves. I think his hands were just regular open, no gloves, and he had sleeves that cut off pretty early at the forearm. So instead of doing, for the sake of ease, they've given him gloves and painted them the same color as his boots. But I'm not sure. I mean, at some point he may have worn blue gloves, and that's just, they're just be more faithful to that interpretation or that costume. But I always remembered him as having bare hands. Now the paint is pretty good. Pretty clean. I mean, the only thing I can really take issue is that some of this really dark blue shading here. I know it's to really give a little depth to the white on his shirt there, but some places they went a little too overboard on it. For accessories, he does come with a ball and chain here, which you really shouldn't, because this accessory is more suited towards Thunderball, hence his whole name of Thunderball, because he swings this ball, wrecking ball. Piledriver here really just goes out on his own and is unarmed or uses whatever he can find to smash people with, be it cars, lampposts, part of the street. Doesn't really carry any specific weapon. I don't know if you could categorize this as an accessory, but something that I noticed with a lot of these figures is that the belt here, on any other figure, this would probably be glued on to the bottom part here, but they've left that loose. I wonder if that's another cost-cutting method. I don't know. I'm thinking about gluing it down there, because it is a little bit annoying sometimes when you're posing it to just have it flip off there. But it does hide the fact that his waist articulation does kind of break up his sculpt there, so maybe that's why they left it out unglued. For articulation, he reuses the Warpath sculpt, so he pretty much has the same articulation as that figure. And he's a pretty bulky character, so it does limit some of his articulation, but not too much. His head does go up and down much better than the Warpath, and he's even got that little extra joint in there to get his neck going, and he looks up very nicely, down pretty far, and of course he goes left and right, and a little bit of side to side. His arms do go all the way around, out and in. His biceps rotate. He's got a single joint at the elbows, and his wrists rotate, I should say his forearms rotate at the glove. He doesn't have any wrist articulation, and his torso articulation is pretty good, or his ab crunch, and his waist articulation there. Hip articulation is pretty good. Moves forward, back, out, and in, and his thigh rotates, but it does break up the sculpt a little bit, so a little bit of points off on that. He has double knee joints, and his feet do go forward and back, and there is some slight ankle pivot on them, and he does have toe articulation as well. So fairly articulated. You can get him in lots of neat poses. I do have one gripe about the articulation. It's the same gripe that I had with the Warpath. His and it's less apparent here than on the warpath, but his torso does have a slight gap here at the ab crunch articulation, and it's, again, like I said, it's not as apparent as on the warpath figure, but it is there. You can particularly tell when there's a light source behind him. You can see it coming through the gap. Now, to get into the history of this guy, Piledriver, or Brian Philip Kaliski, first appeared in Defenders number 17 in 1974. So this character is probably as old as I am, maybe a little bit older by a few months. Now, he is kind of got a real interesting story. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, but was sent off to be raised with relatives on a farm, and he grew up there and became a farmhand. But then he got tired of life out there, and decided to move to the cities, back to New York City, and became involved in criminal activities. And eventually he was imprisoned for one of those criminal acts, and sent to Rikers Island. And it's there that he became roommates, or cellmates, actually, with Dirk Girthwaite, who is better known as the Wrecker. And the Wrecker made a bunch of friends in jail, and this guy was one of them. And so they decided they'd break out together, and with two other inmates, the Wrecker eventually regained his mystical crowbar and shared the power of that crowbar with the other three of them, and hence he became Piledriver, and they started the Wrecking Crew. Now, the Wrecking Crew loses and regains their powers a lot throughout the several years of their, nearly 40 years of their continuity. And something that is not really mentioned quite often is that Piledriver, because of his, for some weird reason, and this is the only one he happens to, he actually gains a physical deformity. Well, not really a deformity, but, kind of. His hands grow to a larger proportion than the rest of his body. And, yes, he has big hands. Oftentimes, he has this sort of a good old country boy attitude, and he's very loyal to the crew and to the Wrecker. Now, he found out quite recently that he had a son that lived with his grandparents until he ran away when he found out who his father was, and somehow gained a mystical shovel and joins the Wrecking Crew as the Excavator. But he's kind of a proud papa, and his son wears a similar outfit to this, and it kind of takes pride in his son and his criminal tendencies. So it's kind of funny that he is a bad good father or a good bad father. So yeah, the Wrecking Crew is definitely one of the long-standing sort of thug-type hired muscle people, often employed by masterminds or manipulated by other people into fighting, but they make wonderful opponents to any hero because of the power that they have. And particularly, Thor or Hercules, you can get into some really good fights, and they've fought about just about everybody. Simple motivation, money, out to destroy shit, don't care who gets in their way, and they're able to take lots of abuse thanks to their mystical powers. So I guess that'll be it for Piledriver. Stay tuned for the next time. Stay tuned for the next review, which will be on Bucky Cap. And until then, I'll see you. Oh, when I get Piledriver, I will be doing a little update review on him.